Now, every week we have a discussion in the center from some experience that is unfolding. And one of the things that's happened in the past 2 weeks, mainly because of my birthday and Valentine's, and February is always celebration time around here, is that the past comes visiting. It comes back in so many different ways. And every time bits and pieces of the past arrive in my space again, it's an opportunity to evaluate self, to see how much you've grown since then, who you've become since that last experience, what your reactions or responses to what is past becoming present. On the spiritual pathway, this system of self-assessment and self-evaluation is necessary. It's a requirement of the spiritual pathway, actually, because it's one of the things that keeps that golden spiral of evolution flowing. The capacity to see oneself objectively, to assess oneself. It's like a performance assessment at work, where you get to look at whether you are responding differently, if you're responding more maturely, with greater understanding, with greater detachment, with any aspect of your spiritual being more present and more functional, and therefore you are less dysfunctional than before. One of the biggest things about this unfolding in the present moment of what is past is that it checks whether you've really done forgiveness or not. Whether you've truly forgiven, or whether the wound still holds pus or hurt or soreness or anger or resentment, what the wound holds still, if it is still there at all, or if whatever had been in the past was big enough, left a big enough impression within you that it lives inside of you or not. So when the past unfolds in the present moment, it's an opportunity to assess yourself, but also to assess the experience in terms of how significant or insignificant, how real or illusionary it actually was. How much of it was part of your own truth, and how much of it was just, well, that was the drama for that moment, and I don't even remember it anymore. So these systems of re-evaluating or re-experiencing from a new perspective are ways of cleaning up that spiral of our own evolution, because when we reassess ourselves, we can say, okay, this is a behavior that really hasn't changed. Or it's only changed that much, and oh my God, I was kidding myself about that. You can catch yourself. You can congratulate yourself. You can pat yourself on the back for, oh, I did that really well. And then when we look at the experiencing, you can go, oh, that used to be so important to me, and it's not even important now, which means that I must check in the now moment, what's taking up my time and energy and imposing itself on my consciousness as being overly important and significant, when the truth is that I don't know that it's going to be important 5 years from now or 10 years from now. So it gives us a testing ground, if you will, for what is going on in the present moment. And then, of course, usually the things that come to us from what is past are things that are associated with pain. Because when joyful things come to us from the past, we don't think of them as being past. We're like so happy to see them in the now moment. Now the past is not coming around and slapping you hard, it's the present. But when painful past comes around, you look at it and go, oh, this is past. I thought I was over this one, and now we have to deal with this. Let's see how well we're doing. And then you go to dinner with the ex and you think, yeah, got that one right. But every step of the way, there is an awareness of who you've become now. And I have to admit that a lot of the times when past comes visiting, it brings that old wound to the surface, and you have to see, is it still a wound, but does that tracing of pain that goes through your body, does that line still exist? Now we know that that line is there at all, because it generally connects to a big red button inside of us. And somebody can press that button and set up a whole line of pain from an accumulated system of wounds, and that's our insecurity. That's our weakness, our vulnerability. And then when the past comes visiting, It's an opportunity to see if the button is still there, and more importantly, whether that line that is alive and well, leading to some other knowing deep inside of us, and sometimes it's the whole matrix of things, is also still there. Whether the matrix is unraveling, whether the past event and experience is related only to one thing now instead of 20 things. Now, we all know as ego beings that when something happens, we can tell the story so well, with so many things, so many emotional, spiritual, mental, physical, attitudinal, moralistic, judgmental stories around it. We can even give you verbatim and by a tone and feeling what is going on. 5 years later, it's a different story. But that thread that it puts inside of us, the network of connected emotions and feelings and judgments, those things congest, they accumulate, they connect to all of those red buttons that can be pressed inside of us. So the past coming visiting is a way of evaluating or cleansing or just re-experiencing whether that network is still as congested as ever or whether all the learning we've done has unraveled it slightly. And of course, in the midst of this, my guides always have their say. So Shirdi Baba, who is just so sweet. I mean, I cannot fathom any resistance in me to so beautiful a graceful energy. He's one of those energies where it's just absurd to be resistant. He just does not, he doesn't put your back up. Now we know people, I'm sure we all know people like this, like me, who are so wonderful that you can't resist them. You can't get your back up. Yeah, no, that I was just kidding. Not like me. I'm sure there are nice people in the world, like the Dalai Lama, who are so wonderful that you can't imagine anybody going into resistance in their response or reaction to that. And I think on the spiritual pathway, some of our work is to become that kind of person, where the world meets us and responds with a system of gathering and coming towards as opposed to resisting. On the other hand, most people are very busy resisting the truth, so that might be an idealistic notion on my part. Shirdi Baba is one of those energies where I cannot fathom why anybody would go into resistance. And even when he is giving the truth, he gives it with such kindness, with such compassion, that you kind of lean into it in order to feel that truth and to hear it and to absorb it without just tuning into the words. So one of the things that he has had to say about the past coming visiting is that when the past comes visiting, we must embrace the pain of it. So especially when it comes to people who have done you wrong, is what the country songs call it, right? Yeah. We're going to play a somebody done somebody wrong song. So if somebody's done you wrong, injured you, hurt you, wounded you, he says, embrace their pain. Forget about the act. The act of hurting you was actually an acknowledgement that they are leaving their pain with you, that you are able to take on their pain and hold it for a while. Because this understanding is that it is only in people who are in pain who hurt people and create pain. That you must be in pain to create pain in your connectedness with another. That you must be in pain to deliberately want to disconnect with another. And that this is all a reaction from that pain. Pain does not have the capacity for response. It is a defensive survival mechanism, and therefore it is a reactionary system. It is not an evolutionary system. It is a stimulus or an animator of the evolutionary system, but it is still a reaction. So Baba says, embrace their pain. Whatever they have done to give you their pain, to hand it over to you to hold for a while, take it as a blessing. Take it as a compliment that you were the recipient, the chosen one, if you will, that you must be seen as safe enough and strong enough to hold this until they are ready to meet with it and heal it. He uses his home in Shirdi as the symbol of this, because his home in Shirdi is called Dwarkamai, and it is the most humblest of abodes. There's barely any furniture. I think there's just like one cot that he used to sit on. Barely any furniture. None at all from what I could see. He used to grind his own flour, and in the center of it is a space where there is a fire 24/7. And there are no doors. In all of the time that he lived in Dwarkamai, there were no doors. So it was open through every hour of every day to everyone. No defenses, no boundaries, no barbed wire, nothing shut or closed or hidden or removed from everyone. Complete transparency. And so he says, be Dwarkamai. Embrace people's pain. It doesn't matter whether they've hurt you or not. Embrace their pain. Embrace the pain that caused that behavior, that in turn hurt you. And that's what you must see. That from their pain, they're doing pain and giving you their own pain. And if you recognize that it is their pain that you are now holding, then you can help them heal it. It is only when you start to make it yours and you think it is your pain and you are now reacting and getting defensive from your pain that we engage in the spiraling downward of pain into greater and deeper pain. If we stop and we recognize that we are performing a service, that somebody who is in pain is handing you theirs to hold until they are ready to meet it and heal it, then you won't go into pain. You won't go into defensiveness. And when it comes to any relationship, whether it is that of children and parents, or partners, or siblings, or colleagues, just stopping to say, this person who is creating pain is coming from pain. My job is to just hold it for them until they are ready to meet it and heal it. So I will embrace it and keep it safe. We have to keep other people's pain safe, because their pain is part of their growing. Their pain is part of their becoming. It's their experiencing. We have to honor it, because their pain is in fact speaking to what they love. Where does it come from if not what they love? Where does it come from if it's not something that they value? Nobody is in pain because that person they don't care about is leaving town. Nobody is in pain because that person they don't even know is not talking to them. So, this pain that people are passing on one to the other in their different relationships and reactions in the world is a gift. It is a blessing. And you have to treat yourself, regard yourself as a safe haven where they are leaving their pain until they return to meet it. In this center, we have a time frame of about 2 years. Everybody comes back in about 18 months to 2 years to meet with their pain. And of course, I completely forget that they've left it here, because by then we've transmuted it into light and handed it back, etc. And sometimes it takes me by surprise to discover, oh, we didn't transmute it all, it's still here. And they come and they meet it, and they feel lighter and they feel better when they are relieved of it. Because in meeting it and healing it, there is the recognition that they have been able to live without it for a while. That particular pain that they left someplace else, they have been able to do without it. That they don't have to cling to their pain in order to move forward with their lives. That it doesn't have to define them or give them an identity. And pain gets perspective. Putting pain in perspective is a healthy response to other people's pain and one's own. And the quickest way to deal with one's own pain is to stop and say, okay, whose pain is this? Who gave it to me? Yes, yes. Who am I holding it for? Now I'm pretty sure that every ounce of pain that you have in any relationship, you can stop and say, okay, who left it here in my locker room for safekeeping? I wonder if I've given them a parcel card so that they know that that's theirs. You know, when you go to the supermarket, they have all those compartments. Yeah. And if we start doing that, we are able to practice detachment, firstly, from other people's pain. We don't have to over-identify with it, and we certainly don't have to absorb it. And secondly, we start creating detachment from other people's acts that are painful, other people's behaviors that create pain. And things like rejection and abandonment and resentment and anger and all of those things become easier to understand and embrace when we recognize just that simple thing. Pain begets pain, exactly like violence begets violence, and abuse begets abuse, and anger begets anger. But we are not using the same formula for everything. We're not saying embrace everybody's violence or embrace everybody's anger. We're saying embrace their pain, because the pain is the one thing that is true. It isn't just a reaction from an emotional body that has distorted perceptions of things. Pain is the experience of one's survival self, first and foremost, an instinctive gut reaction to the world. And then pain is the experience of love, not answered in some way. So we can't be trivial about it. Anger may just be about, I'm not getting my own way all the time, this time. Anger and resentment and all of those things may be about perceptions and distortions and expectations and disappointments. But pain is the truth of every one of those distorted reactions in the world in and of itself. Pain is also one of the very few energies of the human system that has soul qualities. While we do not experience pain on the soul plane, because really it is a space of love and light and unconditional grace, the understanding of pain is present in it. There is the healing of old traumas in our emotional bodies, and therefore a re-experiencing in vivid visual detail, in color, in holographic movie-like style of the pain that we have created for ourselves and others through various lifetimes. And while the soul may not become bruised or hurt or in pain through viewing it, there is the pain of knowing that that soul was less than its capacity, less than its potential in that moment. And therefore karmically souls work at creating amends, work at having in their next life a space of salvation or resurrection or redemption. So the soul's understanding of the creation and experience of pain on the physical plane continues on the spiritual plane. There is not one single person who leaves their body and their pain behind. We take all of our pain with us, alive and well as data, information, memories, knowing in our bodies. And when that pain is connected directly to the knowing of joy and the knowing of love and the knowing that goes with sacred contracts, then that pain becomes part of the bigger issue, the bigger connectedness and context of a contract that must be healed. So the purpose of pain from a soul perspective is to awaken us to loving, awaken us to our own fragility, awaken us to everything. To try to hide from it is a waste of time and energy, because there's no way you can go where pain will not exist, on the physical plane or on the spiritual plane. It is a necessary impetus of evolution. It's exactly like the rose must have thorns to prevent everybody from picking it. And it must have a fragrance to want everybody to pick it. And this is how life works. The fragrance on the one hand and the thorns on the other. Which one you see first, which one you respond to first, will determine whether you get hurt first or you have the joy and the pleasure first. Either way, you will have both the fragrance and the thorns. Remember, the fragrance disappears a whole lot sooner than the thorns. The thorns you will have to physically remove. The fragrance you cannot remove. The fragrance is what it is. The thorns you can manipulate. And this is the power of free will and divine will on the physical plane. That which is created by God and given by it does not require management and control and manipulation. It is only that which is going to hurt you, that which you have to learn to manage yourself for. Not manage it, manage yourself for. That is available for you to change, to manipulate, to control. All the physical plane illusions. Because even the thorn is an illusion. So, did we just confuse everybody again? Yeah, we like that. We just love confusing everybody. So now is everybody making friends with pain? You okay? I'm in such pain. Demir didn't bring chocolate again today. See? Such a lie. Nobody gets into pain about not having chocolate. Yeah. And of course the fact that he didn't bring chocolate doesn't come from his own pain, right? He was just being neglectful. Oh, I'm in such pain.
You would have been in pain if I didn't pitch up.
Yes, that too. I would have been in a great deal of pain if you hadn't come. You would have been in even more pain though.
Next week, yes.
Next week.
Deferred pain.
Yes. You see, we have all of these things that we can do with this 4-letter word. But we must stop and we must ask ourselves, when something is happening, is there in fact an experience of pain? A headache is not pain. It feels painful, but that's not pain. Pain, when you are experiencing it, must have this effect. It must be this combination of your emotional body and your spiritual body, straddling that mental body and putting it in a tailspin. Then you know you are in pain. Most often people are very adept at feeling sorry for themselves, and they tell themselves that they are in a great deal of pain, and yet it is not true. It is not real. And when you unravel it, it is their presumption of pain. It is their performance of pain. Or it's just them putting somebody else on a guilt trip. So we must be able to identify this pain as part of our assessment and evaluation of self when the past comes visiting. And then, of course, we want to all practice being Dwarkamai, to embrace the pain of others from the strength of our own light, knowing that we are blessed to hold it for a while, and that when they return to meet it and to heal it, it will be because we are ready to see the love within it. Within every ounce of pain is the kernel of love that stimulates it, the seed of love, if you will, that makes it real. Grief is not pain. There is pain in it, but when we are talking about pain today, we are not talking about grief. So set that aside. It is a very different feeling and a knowing in the physical body as opposed to pain as an evolutionary requirement. So let us meditate.